All right, guys, we're going to finish off Genesis 19 this morning. If you read ahead, it's one of those places in the scriptures that you just think, so interesting they put this in there. They didn't have to. You know, one of the arguments for the Bible, it's a truth of, hey, Bill.
Hey, buddy.
Good to see you. One of the evidences for the historicity and the reliability of the Bible is what's known as the argument from embarrassment. That anytime you see an embarrassing text that did not really have to be put into history, historians generally grant that validity because it hurts your case. A good point would be, for instance, the denial of Peter. He denies the Lord 3 times, the chief apostle, who's the one who's supposed to be walking in the boldness of faith. In all 4 Gospels, it's made sure everyone knows Peter denied the Lord, the chief apostle who saw everything, heard everything, and it would just give skeptics a little bit of ammunition. See, not even the top apostle, after seeing everything, really believed. See? Why would you put that in the text?
Truth.
You had to. That's what happened. It's part of the narrative. God doesn't shy away from putting the truth in the Bible. Mary Magdalene. What was Mary Magdalene's condition prior to encountering Jesus? Remember? 1 verse. We see this in 1 gospel, and 1 verse mentions this about her. It didn't have to, but it mentioned it. What was her condition?
Seven demons.
She had 7 demons in her. She was a demon-possessed woman. Did you know that Mary Magdalene, it's bad enough in that day that she was a woman, but she was the first eyewitness of the empty tomb. She was the first eyewitness of the resurrected body of Jesus. That's your first eyewitness? Not just a woman who already wasn't really accepted as a valid witness in that day, but a formerly demon-possessed woman. That's your star witness to say, I saw him first. Right? Why did they put Mary Magdalene being possessed by 7 demons in the scriptures? Because it's true, they had to. Why did God have this account of Lot having children with his 2 daughters? Right? It's a small little section of scripture, right? Because it happened. It's an embarrassing set of scripture. In fact, what's interesting is, Moses, traditionally, we believe, wrote the Pentateuch, right? The first 5 books of the Bible. So Moses wrote this. And then in Leviticus, Moses is going to write in the law that it is forbidden for a man to marry his stepdaughter. Whether your daughter is from your father, from your mother's side, it is forbidden. Well, guess who Abraham married? His sister from his father. Did I say daughter? Sister. They're both bad. Your sister, you can't marry your sister on your father's side or your mother's side. Sarah was his sister, half-sister, through his father's side, right? That's what he says to Abimelech, right? He says, she is my sister. Well, he wasn't completely lying. He just didn't really tell the full truth, like, I'm married to her, right? Because all he cared about was what? Saving a life. So here's the patriarch. Here's the guy that everything is going to be based on, Abram. And here's a guy who lies. Here's a guy who doesn't protect his wife. Here's a guy who's willing to give the very most precious thing of his wife over to another man to save his own life. This is Abraham, the friend of God. Why is that put in the text?
It's true.
It had to be put in the text. It's what happened. It's true. And this is known as the criterion of embarrassment. So whenever you see passages, and they're all throughout the Bible, and you're thankful for them, right? It would have been very easy. They always say the victors write the history. Really? Right? Well, they didn't have to write this, and they did. David didn't have to quite, that whole account didn't have to be put in there, but David made sure it was, right? He wanted everyone to know, this is what happened, this is what I did. Let me read you guys this poem. Well, poem time, boys and girls. So it's called Inch by Inch. Inch by Inch. We never wake and vote for less. We simply hit snooze and delay our best. Drift rarely shouts. Its softly sighs. Just this once is its clever disguise. Dreams don't explode, they slowly fade. What matters most is what we evade. The bar drops not in one bold act, but inch by inch. And that's the trap. Excellence isn't loud, nor is it grand. Its quiet choices are daily planned. Drift makes average feel like a cinch, while excellence is built inch by inch. Isn't that great? I love that opening stanza, we never wake and vote for less. What does that mean? Think about that. We never wake up in the morning and vote for less. What do you think that's getting at? What's that saying?
You always want more.
When you wake up in the morning, what are you hoping for that day?
I don't think it's saying that we don't wake up and just, I think I'll have a mediocre day.
Nobody wakes up that way. I can't wait to have a lazy, unproductive, mediocre day. I can't wait to go more broke today. Anybody wake up like that? Just, I can't wait to go broke today. Can't wait to lose more money today. I can't wait for my wife to drift farther away from me today. Right? I can't wait to lose another employee. I can't, right? Just fill in the blank. We don't wake that way. We wake up thinking what? Hey, it's a new day. This could be my break. I could get discovered today. Right? We wake with hopes. We never wake and vote for less. We simply hit snooze and delay our best. Huh? What's that mean? I may not hope or wish for less, but what might I do? Procrastinate. Hit that little button. Let the body win for 10 more minutes, right? Instead of letting the bodies hit the floor. It's a great time to bring that song in, Mac. Right? Instead of doing that, you just hit that snooze. And as the proverb says, as a door turns on its hinges, so does the sluggard turn in his bed. Just makes the same noise. Same noise. You don't know if a door's turning or if someone's turning over in bed. Right? You just hit that snooze and you delay for best. Drift rarely shouts. It softly sighs. Why? Drift rarely shouts. It softly sighs. It's subtle. It's so subtle that it's imperceptible. Right? Because drift asks just for today. It doesn't ask for your tomorrow. It doesn't ask for next week. It doesn't ask for the next month. It asks for just this day, just this hour, just that button right there. And the last one, just this once, is its clever disguise. It's all drift asks for, just this once. It's just this. Remember Lot? It's just this little town. It's just here. I'm just going to pitch my tent here. Just here, right? That's the power of drift. It's a slow fade is what it is. It's inch by inch. You got a sheet here called the staircase model. You guys may have seen this. I did a little leadership series with you guys a couple summers ago, and this is a model that's a core model of mine. This is my life. This was my life. So it's very personal to me. In fact, so much so I wrote this little book here. Some of y'all have it even. It's called Driftwood. It's just kind of a playful leadership fable that I wrote. One day I'm in the shower, get great ideas in the shower. Don't you guys get great ideas in that hot water hitting on you? I get these really creative ideas. And all of a sudden, this story literally flooded my brain in the shower, the main framework of the story. And honestly, it was about me, and it was about someone else close to me. And I just started sketching the story, and I ended up writing this little bitty book, kind of a silly book, but it's a true book. The core message of it is really serious. And it was about this young man named Driftwood. Now, what is driftwood, Bill?
It's just floating aimlessly in the water, and who knows where it ends up.
Could there be anything more passive than driftwood?
No.
Just goes where the water takes it. Thankfully, there's no people like that today. Just kind of goes where the day takes you. And driftwood is a guy that lands on these kind of 4 islands, remember? 4 islands. And the 4 islands are really representative of what we battle every single day. And that first island, for a steak dinner from Tony Clark, does anybody remember the name of the first island? What's that? The Island of Good Intentions? No, that was The Cure. Remember that book? Yeah, that's okay. You're going to start stitching it all together. Yeah. That was great. Thank you for the boldness, though, of putting an answer out, Heath. It was the island. Yeah, that's right. It was the island of the ought-tos. And he gets on this island, and everybody in this island keeps talking about what they ought to do, but nobody does anything because somebody else ought to do it. So everything's broken on this island, right? Y'all ever live in the ought-tos? You ever tell yourself what you ought to do? Don't say it out loud. I ought to do this. I ought to start doing this. I ought to stop doing this. It's the world of the ought-tos, and that's where a lot of people live. That's where Driftwood lived. He learns some lessons, and he goes to the island of the, after that, the island of the have-tos. The have-tos. That island is perfect. Everything is done exactly the way it's supposed to because everybody does things because they have to. But there's no joy on that island. They're just disciplined marchers, soldiers. They get it all done. But man, they're stiff and they're rigid. There's no joy, no peace. Always wrestling with what has to be done next. Ever meet those people? And then he leaves that island realizing, well, I want the outcomes of the have-to island, but I don't want the heart and the lack of joy of that island. And he runs into the third island. Remember the third island? This is another big island, the island of the need-tos. It's where people finally realize, I got to get this done. They wait till the last minute, but now all of a sudden it's urgent. I got to get this done. Everyone there is neurotic. They're all like running last minute to get things done, always in a panic. But it's that last island where the lessons are learned. Okay? Remember the name of the last island?
Want to.
The island of the want-tos, where they learn the secret of everything you do, you learn to do because you want to do it. Because the key is when you realize that everything you do shapes the person you're becoming. It doesn't matter how big or how small, how menial or how grand. It doesn't matter. It's that everything I do shapes the person that I'm becoming. And that formation and that shape is what now gives me the outcomes of the have-tos with the joy of the want-tos. Right? Driftwood. And it all starts with this idea of drifting because we are all prone to drifting. This is Lot's life. Lot is a drifter. You know, if you ever took philosophy, if you ever took logic, there is a particular form of logic that is used sometimes. It's called the reductio ad absurdum argument. And it's where you argue with somebody and you reduce their argument to its logical absurdity. And you show them how unrealistic or absurd their argument is by going to the very conclusion. If what you're saying is true, then this would be the nutty conclusion of your argument. It's called the reductio ad absurdum argument. That's, in my mind, what this text is. When I read this story of Lot and his 2 daughters, his life becomes a reductio ad absurdum. If you keep living your life in that direction, someday you're going to be holed up with your 2 daughters, having sex with them, and you're going to have kids with your daughters. It just sounds crazy, except in this case it's true. His life was a reductio ad absurdum, all the way to the extreme case that nowhere do you see this except in this text right here. Right? This is what happens. And it's because Lot allows this slow drift to occur. And if you look on your little staircase model, I just want to give it to you just as a reminder. This is how drift happens. This is how failure happens. This has been my life in many ways. These are the lessons God has had to teach me through drift. This is your lives in many ways. Everything starts off with the fact that there are hazards all around us. Is that true? Are there hazards everywhere that seek to cause harm, impede progress? Look, if you want to grow in the spiritual life, what are some hazards that exist that can impede the progress of the spiritual life? Let's say your goal is, Man, I really want to aspire to be close to God, walking with God, intimate with God. That's a great goal. That's a great aspiration. What are the hazards that I need to be aware of? This is the part where you guys contribute. Busyness. Let's start with that. Is that true? Can you be too busy? Can you get so busy that you don't make time for God? Yes. What else? Who back here? Nobody else?
Self-righteousness is
Hey, man, thinking that I'm doing all right. My heart's okay. Look how good I'm doing. It doesn't cause me to confess and go deep in my heart with God and look at every nook and cranny of my life and beg His grace and beg His mercy and walk in peace, right? Because I'm doing all right. I thank God that I'm not like them. Ever heard that prayer? One guy a long time ago. What else can be a hazard?
Lust.
Lust, there we go. Got a men's study right here. Thought that might be right off the bat.
Greed.
All right, let's stop. Let's go back to lust for a minute. You're like, that's too convicting. Let's go to greed. I don't struggle with that one very much. Look, the lust of the eyes, the lust of the heart, the lust of the flesh. It's everywhere. It's everything we look at. It's everywhere you look on TV. It's everywhere you look driving around. It's everywhere. And it can creep into the heart. All of us have that battle. Every one of us. I don't care who you are. Right? You're either dead or you're lying, or you notice it. It's about noticing it, catching it. What do I do with it? How do I process it? Right? Lust can really be an inhibitor. What else? Greed. Right? Making things my ultimate. Right? How much do I want? Just a little bit more. Why? Just because I can. All right? Can I have a bigger reason than that? Right? Greed. Spending all my efforts, my resources to just acquire more. Right? The acquisitive mindset of just acquiring stuff. What else? Give me one more. What else could be a hazard to the spiritual life? I'm thinking of a key one here. And a lot suffered from this.
A lot of, like, all these people coming house to house, the Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses, and, you get into conversations with them, especially someone that hasn't grown up in Christ. And it's just all this information that can get confused.
Okay, maybe a lack of knowledge, a lack of developed understanding that I'm easily deceived. I'm easily troubled. I mean, I have doubts, right? Because I don't understand how to discover what's true. There's so many different opinions out there. How can I possibly know? I think that definitely can be a hazard out there. It can be a hazard of the mind, right? It can really impede a person. Sometimes your mind can be the blocker to your heart because I just got another question. That could be it. I think another one is lack of community. Lack of the people around you of the same mindset, the same mission, the same desires, the same loves, right? That's why I love this, just being with you guys, right? That's why I love the breakfast that you guys get to go do and just the camaraderie, the time. That's why I love church and watching. The most fun of church is afterwards. Like, no one leaves, right, Chris? I mean, they never leave. They just keep hanging around, right? And
was it that, or was it complacency?
what's that?
Was it that, or was it complacency?
I think complacency has got to be another category for sure, of just not willing to do what's required to build
He knew
intimacy.
what was there.
What's that?
He knew what was there.
Yeah, he did.
But he knew furthermore what was also in Zor.
Yeah,
He'd been there once before.
yeah. He probably thought that he was immune to it in some ways, right? It won't happen to me. I remember when I got to college, I remember I was rushing a fraternity. And during rush, I remember my walk with God was pretty solid, man. And I was excited to convert the entire fraternity. And I remember pledge night, it all came crashing down. They won. And it was just the beginning of the battle of like, the Christian life is not a one-man show. You can't do it. It's so hard, right? You need each other, right? And Lot's problem is he left the shadow of the wings of the one who protected him and guided him and taught him. And he went off and he left too soon. He's Luke Skywalker. He left too soon. He thought he was ready, but he wasn't. And the dark side got him, right? That's what happened. So you got these hazards. The violations are now when I'm interacting with this hazard, but because I'm not paying a price yet, what do I tell myself? It's okay. Look at the outcomes that I'm getting. Look at my business. It's still growing. Obviously, what I'm doing must be working. God must be blessing it. But my wife hadn't left yet. We hadn't fought in 6 months. She must be happy because we haven't fought. My health must be totally fine because I feel fine. I can't have anything wrong going on in my body, so I can keep eating and drinking the way I'm eating and drinking. I'm totally fine because I feel fine, right? Violations, 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 until all of a sudden one day, boom, there's the greatest gift you could have. It's that third step, right? What is that? An incident, a small thing that happens that finally is like a little sign that says, yo, turn it around. This is not going the right way. You keep doing this, it's going to get worse. Something real bad's going to happen. That's a gift. Because the only price you had to pay right there is something very small. Maybe a couple $100 here, maybe a little hard conversation here, maybe something happened at work, right? It's small. It's manageable. It's still, you still have a chance to turn it around. But oh no. See, because most people, the cost isn't high enough yet there. It's that fourth step that the cost gets high. And what is that? Now we got a real setback. Now something really significant happens. And if you don't turn around, eventually it leads to failure, right? To failure. It's the staircase. Of that 5 steps, which of these 5 steps is the most important step?
First, define the hazard.
Defining the hazards. What else? It's violations. It's violations because I can't do anything about the hazards. They're there. I'm the hazard. The hazards are around me. The first step on this staircase that I actually have agency, that I have an ability to make a choice is which step? Violations. See, reduce violations. If violations go to 0, what else goes to 0? Everything else. At least with respect to me being the cause of it, right? Reduce violations to 0 and everything else goes to 0. It's like a buddy of mine that puts his cell phone in a crate in his trunk whenever he drives. He lacks the ability of self-control. He said he's tried it. He's done everything he can to not get on his phone when he drives. His kids are always, Dad, get off your phone. He finally now sticks his phone in his trunk, in a crate, wherever he goes, and he never gets on his phone when he drives. And he gets out of his car, and he goes to his trunk, he opens it, gets his phone out, heads out. His phone goes in his trunk every single time because he knows I'm not going to pull over on the side of the road just to go check my text message. Right? So all he's got to do is get it out of sight, get it in my trunk. So if he has 0 violations of being on his phone and driving, guess what else he'll have 0 of? Incidences, setbacks, and failures because of him. Right? That's how it works. So the violations, this is where the work is done. Right? It's like golf, man. You want to get your golf game down? Right? Reduce violations. Okay? Quit 3-putting, Walt. Remember, Tony, I'd always miss my putts short. Tony used to get so mad at me. I had this really light putter. I used to play with Tony. I thought I needed a light putter. I didn't like a heavy mallet putter. But every time I hit with this putter, what would I do?
Short.
I'd leave it short. He gets so mad at me. Because we'd play together in these little tournaments, right? And I'd leave these balls. When we'd practice, he's like, dude, if you leave this thing short, I swear I'm going to hit you over the head with this club. He would. He would get so mad. I'd leave it 2-3 feet short, right? And I would try. And I'm like, And finally, the church gifted me a wonderful putter. It's this heavy mallet putter. And all of a sudden, it's amazing how many more putts you make when you get it to the hole. It's amazing. Start reducing. See, leaving a ball short in golf is called a violation. You don't even give it a chance. You don't even give it a chance. That's why in tennis, when I used to coach tennis, I would always tell these young guys that I was coaching that were tournament players, I would always make them, anytime you hit the ball on the net, you're going to drop and give me 10 push-ups. If you miss deep or you miss wide. You do not miss in the net. Because if you miss in the net, what did you never give an opportunity for? To give that ball a chance to either go in or that other idiot to hit it. Because it's going out. Right? Give yourself every chance possible. It's amazing how many more points you'll win if you don't hit the ball on the net. There's rule number 1. There's a free tennis lesson for you right there. Just give me $20 each. We'll call it even. Right? Pickleball 2, Ronnie. Right? Don't hit it in the net. Give that ball a chance. Make them swat at it and miss it. Right? That's what it is, violations. Reduce your violations, everything. Okay, let's look at Lot now. Okay, that's a good intro there. Inch by inch, Lot. Lot departed from Zoar and lived in the mountains along with his 2 daughters because he was afraid to live in Zoar. Instead, we're not told why. A lot of people try to speculate why. He lived in the mountains. That's where initially he was supposed to go, right? He's a plains guy, not a mountain guy. But it says he was afraid to live in Zoar. Instead, he and his 2 daughters lived in a cave. I want you to imagine what just happened, by the way. Let's get some context here. What just happened a few verses before? He just got through watching an apocalyptic scene. He just got through seeing the judgment of Sodom and Gomorrah and that entire area from the heavens. Fire and sulfur and things are burning. The entire place is devastating. And he's watching this. What else did he see? Something probably, hopefully more painful than that. His wife turned into a pillar of salt. His wife turned back. He didn't protect his wife. She's gone. She's dead. Everyone he knows is dead. Every friend he made in that city is dead. Every business relationship he had is gone. His entire business is gone. Everything in his life has been utterly lost. All he has is his 2 daughters, who, by the way, what was his wonderful offer that he made to the men of the city of Sodom? Hey, I get to now live with the 2 daughters that know I offered them to all the men of the city to do whatever they want with them. Wow, thanks, Dad. They probably got some daddy issues going on. A little trauma. How much trauma just happened? Not to mention Lot's life prior to that. Having to get rescued, being captured, all that stuff. Now you get to the devastation of where you live. You see the judgment of God. You're seeing angels. Right? You see your wife getting burned up in a pillar of salt. And now all of a sudden you're in a cave with your 2 daughters. Boy, that's enough to make you want to what? Drunk. Start drinking. It's a little bit like, do y'all remember when we did Genesis 6 to 9, went through the flood? Remember what the first thing it says Noah did after the flood was over? He got drunk, right? Some people make the argument that the atmosphere was different and the fermentation process now was different, and therefore what he thought was normal kind of fermented wine was actually much stronger, and therefore Noah got drunk because he did. Okay. I just think he got drunk. I just think he just saw the devastation and the destruction of the world. He heard the cries and the screams of people. He saw the ending of the lives of animals all over him.
He was stuck on a boat with his family for a little bit. That had been pretty stressful.
Hey, it'd be, yes.
Well, if you think about it, he spent all those years building that ark, they ridiculed him. Spends all that time on the boat, gets off, now he's got to rebuild something else.
God, so true, right? You're just laughed at, you're mocked. How hard would that be? Right? And all of a sudden he finally gets to a landing spot after he's been floating all that time, and he's like, give me a drink. Boy, did he drink. Right? That's no. Why do they record that, by the way? Why do you record the man who God saw as the one righteous man in all the earth? His first act after the judgment of the world is he gets drunk. Why would you put that in the text? You had to do it. It's our humanity. Right? Can you go through hard times and struggle and be redeemed by the grace of God and still make goofy decisions? Can that still happen? Anybody here only had to get licked once? Right? Or have you had to like get licked multiple times in life to go, okay, I get it. I get it. See, that's humanity, man. That's us. So I think he's in trouble. I think Lot, if you're going to simply do a human profile, a case study of this mindset of Lot, there's all kinds of trauma in this dude's life right now. So he's in a cave, right? With his 2 daughters. Then the firstborn, she says to the younger, our father is old, and there's no man in the land to sleep with us, as is the custom of all the land. So what's their concern? First of all, our father is old. What are they saying? There's no other men around. Dad's old. If we're going to do this, what? Better do it now. All right? He may not have many swimmers left. So let's do this because there's no other chance. All they saw in front of them was what? What did they see? Just devastation. There's no, in their mind, maybe there's no one around. Yeah.
I think they also saw, by saying, I think you're absolutely right, but I think they also saw with him being old, they saw that they don't have anything to take care of them. We don't have much more. When Dad's gone, what about us? What's going to happen to us? And so by saying he's old, they're declaring in connection with there's nobody else around. There's no men that would want, that don't have anybody else. We've got to now take care of ourselves. We've got to now create something here.
Yeah.
Who's going to take care of us? Dad's old. He's only got a few more years. And so we got to figure something out.
It's a great point, Chris. No doubt. At that time, they were very vulnerable.
Yeah.
Your father, the man that you were with, was the one that would protect and take care of. Now, all of a sudden, they feel isolated and alone in this cave. Dad's old. He can't even protect us physically, really.
There's no house.
There's no house. There's no dowry. There's no... Yeah.
You're just a cave.
So, when you're desperate, what will you do when you're desperate? Right? I know y'all have never been desperate, but what will people do when they're desperate? Desperate things. Right? They're desperate. And not to mention the fact that, they feel like he's the only option left. All right? Now, this is a time in history when these are not necessarily unheard of, but in the biblical text, it's very odd for us to see this. So she says, our father's old, there's no man in the land. So here's the connection, to sleep with us, as is the custom of all the land. As is the custom of what land? Where were they living?
Sodom.
Wow, nice custom. All right, that is the custom of pagan idolatry. When you move far away from God, sex becomes the new God. I think it was, if I can say this on camera, I think it was G.K. Chesterton, the great British satirist, who said that orgasm is the mysticism of the atheist. That's the closest they can come in life to anything beyond this world. That's what he said. And so you live for it. That becomes your God. When I move away from God and God is not a part of my life, I'm looking for moments that bring out the greatest experience I can possibly feel in my life. And you live for it. And you create Sodom. You create Gomorrah. All right? What's that, Kevin?
Idolatry.
It's idolatry. Becomes your new idol. This is what I worship. Right? Verse 32, she says, come, let's get our father to drink wine so that we can sleep with him and preserve our father's line. Well, there's the motive right there, preserve his line. They're trying to do it as an honorable thing. Let's preserve you've got to somehow make yourself believe what you're doing. There's some level of good in it, right? Y'all ever done that, by the way? You ever act in a certain way and you somehow concoct some measure of validation in it to kind of justify the action that you're doing? And you have to hold on to that in order to have your own sanity because you know really what you're doing isn't the right way to do it, right? They're not trusting God. They certainly got no faith from their dad. Whatever faith Lot had, which he had some, because 2 Peter tells us what? Amazingly, if 2 Peter didn't have this one verse in it, If this one verse wasn't in the entire Bible, you would look at the life of Lot, and what would you think about Lot's life when it's all said and done? What a pagan. This guy was so far from God, he never knew God. That's not what 2 Peter says. What does 2 Peter say? He was righteous. Remember why it says he was righteous? 2 Peter 2?
Because he was told true. Observing the lifestyle.
He saw the evil that they were doing. He had enough of a conscience of the evil that was going on in Sodom that God said that that conscience that he had of his was just enough for God to see him as righteous. Right? That as the nephew of Abraham, Abraham was able to somehow give enough transference of faith over to Lot to save him. It's the mustard seed of faith. If it wasn't for this one verse, you'd never think this. You'd never think Lot was one of the righteous. Now, we don't mean righteous in terms of moral, ethical, rectitude. We're not talking about that kind of righteousness. We're talking about simply he's in a covenant relationship with God. That's all that it is. It's the thief on the cross. If you did not see that one line where Jesus says, "Surely I tell you today, you will be with me in paradise." If all the text said was that the thief turns to Jesus and says, "Lord, remember me when you pass from this place." And then it said, "And Jesus remaineth silent." What do you think most interpreters would have said about why Jesus remained silent? See, he didn't even consider his cry, didn't even consider his prayer. How could he possibly, at the end of his life, after a life of debauchery and theft and all the things that he did, how could he possibly expect salvation in his final, right? And so Jesus remains silent. And then you preach that sermon. Chris would preach the best sermon ever about the silence of God, rejecting the prayers of men in the final moments, right? That's what you'd preach. But it doesn't say that. What's it say? Surely, today, you will be with me in paradise today, right? Because that's all that's needed. That's all that's needed is just the seed of faith. Yesterday I was in New Orleans and I'm heading back to the airport. Stacy was there. She was working with one of our clients all day. And so we were meeting at the airport. And so I'm in my Uber. And I was in there with my driver's name was Muhammad. Great guy. He's from Jordan, from Amman. Has 6 kids. Just had a great conversation. He said all 6 of his kids, they were all in the U.S. They all forgot all of their Arabic. He said, this is unacceptable. And he told me, I sent my wife and my 6 kids all back to Jordan until they become fluent in Arabic again. So they've been there for 3 years. And so he kind of tests their Arabic. He talks to them in Arabic through virtual, whatever the platform is he uses. And he goes, they're just about ready to come back, because for him, he wants them to be able to read the Quran in Arabic. He wants them to be able to remember the tongue, because that is God's language. Arabic is the language in his worldview that God spoke and revealed the Quran. And so I said to him, have you ever read the New Testament? And he said, no. He said, but I know about it. I know about it from the Quran. He says it talks about the same things. It talks about, Jesus and Mary and Gabriel. I said, yeah, but you've never read the New Testament? He said, no. I said, do you know what the biggest difference is between the New Testament and the Quran? Like the biggest difference? He says, what? I said, well, let me ask you a question. And I asked him the first diagnostic question. I said, Muhammad, if for some reason today was your last day to live and you died, and you stood before Allah, how certain are you that Allah would let you into heaven? He said, certain? I said, certain. He goes, no one has certainty. I said, are you a faithful Muslim? Do you pray 5 times a day? Have you done the Hajj? He goes, yeah. And I said, are you faithful to your family? Are you faithful? Your wife is out of town. Are you faithful? Are you morally pure? Yes. I said, so all of those things? I said, you're not certain? He goes, you can't be certain. He said, no one can do it on their own. It's the mercy of Allah. I have sinned. I was like, you're right. I said, the New Testament says you can have certainty. And he says, how can you have certainty? He said, and he looked at me, he's looking in the mirror. I'm like, well, watch the road. He's looking in the river. He goes, do you know for certain? I said, I know for certain. And he goes, how do you know? I said, because the New Testament guarantees it through the life of Jesus. I said, do you know what Jesus had to do to give me certainty? And I told him, right, well, we all know. He lived the life that I could not live. He lived the life, Muhammad, that you could not live. He lived the perfect life for you. And he took all your sins upon himself and he gave his life up for you. And by faith in him, you can have certainty that he lived the life for you. And when you die, you are his. And then he goes, yeah, but how can you trust the New Testament? I said, what do you mean? I said, do you trust the Quran? He says, yes, that's from God. I'm certain that's from God. And so he goes into this whole thing about the New Testament. And I said, can I give you a book to read? He said, yeah. I said, will you read it? He said, yeah. I said, will you read it? He said, I will read it. And he wrote it down. It's that great book by Nabil Qureshi. You guys read that book yet? It's a great book. Seeking Allah, Finding Jesus. It's a brilliant account of the conversion of Nabil. So here's an example of a guy, right, who is hanging his hat on what? Which is what religion does. And a great guy, by the way. Great human being, great guy, faithful man, faithful father, faithful husband. And yet, still has the awareness of what? I haven't done enough. There's still sin in my life. And when I die, no matter how much I've done, I still don't have the assurance and the certainty of what my final destination is going to be. Okay? It's the beauty of the gospel right there. So this is Lot, man. So she says, so they got their father to drink wine that night, which, by the way, probably wasn't hard. He probably had no problem having that glass of wine, or 2, or 3. And the firstborn came and slept with her father. He did not know when she lay down or when she got up. The next day, the firstborn said to the younger, look, I slept with my father last night. Let's get him to drink wine again tonight so you can go sleep with him and we can preserve our father's line. That night, they again got their father to drink wine. And the younger went and slept with him. He did not know when she lay down or when she got up. So how much do you have to drink, by the way, to not remember what just happened? A lot. I will say, to my shame in my life, I can remember one time my entire life, it was in college, that I can remember waking up one morning and had no recollection of where I was, where my car is. I had to call people do you have any idea where my car is? I was completely, the next morning, oblivious, and I was full of shame because I would have not had any idea what I did. It was the height of my depravity and sin during that time, of just the way I was living my life as a man who knew God. Right? You got to drink a lot to get to that place. Verse 36, so both of Lot's daughters became pregnant by their father. There it is. In one verse, we move the clock 10 months. Right? Now they're pregnant. The firstborn gave birth to a son and named him Moab. Moab means seed of the father. How about that? Boy, they're a pretty bold naming that, right? Seed of my father. Man, daddy's girl. He is the father of the Moabites of today. The younger also gave birth to a son, and she named him Ben-Ami, which is son of my grandfather. He is the father of the Ammonites of today. And then you go, why did God allow this to happen? Right? What do we know? What's something pretty amazing about Moab? Anybody in particular come from the people of Moab that became part of the lineage of Jesus? Who's that? Ruth. Remember the story of Ruth and Boaz? And Ruth was a Moabitess, right? The Moabites were shunned by the Israelites. They were the enemy of the Israelites. And yet here is this Moabitess woman, Ruth, who faithfully wants to follow the God of Israel. Remember, what does she say to Naomi? Where you go, I will go, right? What's that line? How's it go? Your people will be my people. Where you go, I will go. That's right. She was a woman that, even though she was a Moabitess, she wanted to follow the God of Israel. She wanted to follow the God of Ruth, right? And it was from that line through Ruth and Boaz all the way down that you get all the way to Matthew in the genealogy, and you see that Jesus came from this stock, from this line. That out of this event, you had the beginning of a Moabite people through the greatest act of violation here of a father and daughter. And yet out of that lineage comes a woman who will be part of the lineage of the Messiah someday. Why does the Bible record that? It's true. Who is welcome into the lineage of God? Who's welcome? All. Right? For God so loved the world that what? He gave his only begotten Son. That what? That who? Whosoever. Gotta love that word. Whosoever. All. Right? That believe in him may not perish but have everlasting life. It is a gospel for all. At any stage of your life, no matter what you wrestle with, no matter what you struggle with, it is a gospel for all, and God meets you exactly where you're at. And it's absolutely incredible that the Bible doesn't try to preserve this pristine lineage that leads up to Jesus. Who's in this lineage, by the way?
Prostitute.
You got prostitute, you got Tamar. Who else you got in there? You got David. It even mentions the man whom, it mentions Bathsheba, right? And then it even references the man that David had killed, right? In the genealogy. It's like all this tainted genealogy is there. And then out of that comes this shaft of light, this purity, this seed of life that comes out of death and sin. And it's that seed and that shaft of light that now has the ability to completely change the world. To change the world. And it changes the world by changing you and changing me, right? One day at a time. So we look at this text, and on first glance, you might go, this is weird. Why is this happening? Why are they recording this? Right? And yet out of it, you see this is how God works. He takes that what looks so ugly, and out of what looks so ugly, he creates something unbelievably beautiful. It's like the cross. You take a bloody, bludgeoned body on a cross, and from that cross now produces the resurrected Christ that can truly reconcile us between God and man, reconcile us with God, right? And now we can, as Romans 5 says, we can now have peace with God through that. It's a great text, unbelievable text. So let's all be careful not to drift like Lot, right? Drifted to Sodom, and his life ended just in devastation. But by God's mercy, he was still in his covenant.